just spotlight me. But good afternoon. It's so wonderful to see all of you today, even if it's just in Zoom blocks. I so appreciate your taking the time to be with us for an update on SLPS students and how they and their dedicated teachers, counselors, and school leaders are faring in these unprecedented times. I'm Jane Donahue, president of the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation. We're a separate nonprofit entity from the district and serve as both a strategy and funding partner. We exist to support the amazing students and leaders of the St. Louis Public Schools District. Our programs are born out of a conviction that quality education is a right and shaped by what we hear from school level staff, district leaders, students, and community partners. In Missouri, the public school funding formula significantly favors more affluent districts, and funding inequities are growing. St. Louis Public School Foundation dollars support much needed programs that district funding cannot cover. St. Louis Public School Foundation programs are made possible by the awesome generosity of donors, both big and small, and I see so many of you that have joined this call. Welcome and a huge, huge thank you. You truly have stepped up during this crisis. As we all know, many inequities have come into sharp focus over the past few months. SLPS Foundation has walked with the district as it has navigated many tough issues. The very real digital divide, the continuing loss of jobs, the reality that COVID is disproportionately impacting the SLPS community, which is over 80% African American, the instability and anxiety students feel. That's a lot. But this afternoon is also about resolve and hope, and it's about lessons we've learned so far. School just started 30 days ago on August 31st. And we wanted to give you an opportunity to see how school is going, especially in the 4 SLPS priority areas that you so generously fund. And that's early childhood, college and career readiness, student well-being, and school innovations. There's a combination of joy and risk to an endeavor like today's gathering. We aren't presenting perfection. We hope you will understand that this is really a work in progress. Day in and day out, SLPS staff are working hard to help students thrive. They are assisted by tireless parents, or maybe just tired parents, but this is uncharted work in an ever-changing environment, so no one on this call feels like everything's taken care of. Today, I hope you will listen with a spirit of grace and know that we collectively are responsible for the best outcomes for children. So here's our agenda. Emily, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So our agenda, and then I'm also just gonna go over a few housekeeping tips. We ask that you stay on mute for your presentation. Because we're so fortunate to have a variety of speakers, your viewing experience will be best if you switch to your viewer to speaker view. You can put any questions you have in chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can at the end of the presentations. We'll tape this session so we can make it available to others. And then on that note, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Sean Williams, who's principal at Malincrot Elementary, as well as St. Louis Public Schools Foundation Program Committee Chair and an SLPS alum. We're going to open each of our segments with a little trivia question. This is a chance for you to test your own knowledge and think about the answer, and then Sean, Dr. Williams, will reveal the answer. So let's get started. Thanks so much.
So there are currently blank instructional centers supporting blank students in person. Give you guys a second to ponder what you think the correct answer is, and then I will reveal the correct answer. So let's say 5 seconds to select a choice, A, B, C, or D. Congratulations to everyone who thought that the answer is B. You are correct. The correct answer is B. So originally there were 24 centers were open, but our district superintendent, Dr. Kelvin Adams, has been flexible to needs and moved staff and sites to accommodate actual class sizes and the actual use of the facility. So again, the correct answer is B.
Thanks, Sean. Now we're going to hear from Dr. Adams, our superintendent, and maybe Dr. Adams, you'll just tell him a little bit about what an instructional support center is, but he's also just going to give us, you guys get the latest and greatest. It changes every day in terms of what we're doing now, what we've learned so far, and what we're hoping for in the next month or so. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. Thank you, Dr. Williams. First, I want to say thank you to everyone who has supported the district in the past and who continues to do that. Over some $800,000 has been provided to support the district through this transition in March as we dealt with summer school and all of those kinds of things as we go back to the instructional support centers. Just for those persons who don't know, instructional support centers really were our attempt to try to make sure that we were providing support to families. As you might know, on August the 31st, we made a decision, at least August 11th, we made a decision to go virtual 100%. And as a result of going virtual 100%, we wanted to also make sure that we were providing some opportunities for families. And so we opened some centers, i.e. schools, such that we could do that. How did we really prepare for this restart? Well, we started with a planning committee made up of teachers, principals, central office staff, some of our partners as well. And that conversation really kind of started in May, as we started having conversations. We talk on a regular basis with the health department and Department of Health in the county as well, and area superintendents at least once a week for an hour, hour and a half, as we talk about what's happening in other districts and lessons learned and how can we get better. Those kinds of meetings have really kind of taken place, started in late March, and have continued up until today, quite frankly, as we've had calls today talking about some lessons learned from other districts. We've prepared ourselves to purchase over $1 million of supplies and materials, such that there are masks and other kinds of signages that indicate that we are ready for school. And so the facilities have been prepped. As Mr. Williams indicated, there are about 22 instructional support centers, but we had 20 schools open during the summer, providing meals to over 300,000 kids. That process has continued over the last week or so on a daily basis. We provide food to about 3,000 families, is what the numbers are looking like. We still did have a summer school program with about 2,000 students in summer school. We provided professional development to our teachers as they got prepared for virtual, and I'm sure teachers, principals, parents, and students would say that we needed more time to do that, but we provided 2 weeks of intense professional development to help get our teachers in a better place around virtual learning. And obviously it's a work in progress because teachers have done really well on it, but it continues to learn as we deal with chat issues and other kind of issues that come up. And we have surveyed families at least twice, and we are now surveying families right now as we talk about the next iteration of what will happen moving forward. And that survey is mainly through calling families to ask them what they would want to do. Instructional support centers, as I already said, 22 sites, 1,000 kids who come on a daily basis, about 225 staff persons who are supporting kids in that venue. Sticks and Wilkerson, our early childhood centers, are servicing about 150 kids. And as I said before, we're providing about 3,000 meals, 2,800 meals a day. On the virtual instructional side, we provided over 6,000 hotspots, over 5,000 laptops, and 15,000 iPads available, ready for families to pick up. We provided approximately 10 to 11,000 in March. We received all of them coming back with the exception of about 1 or 2%. For those of you who are MAT persons, around 500 hotspots did not come back that we're working to still identify and get back, and about 900,000 iPads that we are still working to get back. And we're working with families right now. Some have moved and been lost and broken and all of those kinds of things. And we're working with families on a case-by-case basis to do that. What we've learned from the ISCs, our instructional support centers, is that they have been relatively safe. There's only been one case that we have been aware of that we've been able to obviously quarantine and do all of that, but it was 10 kids and one teacher. And outside of that, there have been no cases. Our youngest students seem to love the fact that they're wearing masks and also that they're doing the 6 feet distance. It's almost like a game for them. We are successfully engaging all of our students because the students in the Instructional Learning Center are really virtual, being instructed virtually by their teacher, but they're in that building getting support and getting food and all of those kinds of things. We have just really learned a great deal. This has been a great runway for us as we get ready to what's going to happen next. And later in this call, I'll talk about what's going to happen next. At the end, I'll kind of come back and give you an update about what we will be doing moving forward. At this point in time, I would like to I think Mrs. Donahue is going to turn this over to Mrs. Mitchell, who we pulled out of a school, Nance Elementary School, to lead us and lead our staff in this virtual environment. The foundation, quite frankly, is supporting her position, being out of her building for 1 year. She's an expert in this area, and her expertise has been incredibly important to us as we navigate this new environment. And so at this point in time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Donahue, who I think will be turning it over to Dr. Mitchell.
Well, if you listened carefully, you might know the answer to this next question from Dr. Williams.
So which of the following is a brand new position funded by the foundation this year? Is it A, the Director of Technology, B, the Director of Curriculum and Learning, or C, the Director of Virtual Learning? And if you heard the presentation given by Dr. Adams, we all know that the answer is C, the Director of Virtual Learning. This school year has called for a different approach, something called blended learning, which focuses on learners' ability to learn in real time and on their own. So Natasha Mitchell, who is a former SLPS principal and my former coach, was hired earlier in the summer to lead this work. So without further ado, turn it over to Ms. Mitchell.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate the funding of this position. So as Dr. Adams so graciously introduced, I am currently the interim director of virtual learning. And prior to this, for the previous 2 years, I had the great privilege of being the school leader of Nance. So love Nance, any Nance alum on the call. Have to give you guys kudos. So I just want to highlight that during my tenure at Nance, our vision was to empower students as global leaders to make a positive impact on the world. That mission critical work is what continues to drive me to promote equity and excellence, not only for the students of Nance, but for the students in the entire district. So when I was presented with the opportunity to make this shift, I understood the type of impact we could have on every student in St. Louis Public Schools. Also, this is a moment to pivot education. So we think about this continued momentum and sustainability and the fact that technology can act as a great equalizer as we think about the future, past the pandemic, past all of the restart plans, and consider what is next. So I think we have a couple slides if you guys want to go to the next slide. Just a quick glimpse. This is where we started, as Dr. Adams said, back in May. We literally had 100 plans for everything, every scenario. And so this is a graphic to represent the idea of what does the virtual classroom look like, and how does it take place in more than one setting? How does it take place in face-to-face instruction? How does it take place at home? And so this idea that every teacher is a virtual teacher was the professional development theme that we had this school year. And with that being said, we're understanding really just this critical use of technology as a tool to move us forward, also as a way to support us in the pandemic when we did decide to go 100% virtual. So in thinking about, I think our theme today is virtual lessons learned, and what does it look like in the day of virtual. So this is essentially what we outlined as our expectation. We can go back once, I'm sorry, go back just for 1 second. So we're still here. This is what we proposed early on, that we would have these standards-based virtual units of study. we would have teachers on an airtight schedule, that we would have at-home learners like participating in synchronous instruction. We asked every teacher to post their lessons by 8 a.m. every single Monday on their website and their teams. We asked teachers to create synchronous and asynchronous content that students could participate in person and virtually. And you know what? Teachers rose to the occasion, and that is what is happening right now. And so thinking back to the recommendations that we made, the one-to-one, using blended learning, and this idea of students having an opportunity to engage with the teachers they know in schools, in the neighborhoods that they're familiar with, and access to those student support services, we were able to do just that. We have a lot of work to do, but we are proud of where we are now and how we've been able to see this through. All right, we can go to the next slide. And I'm going to quickly reflect on this. It's not in the slide, but just this idea of how we supported parents in this work. We realized it was so important that we created this homeschool connection. And never before have we had more connections with families. And also we understood the critical need that to train parents and to give them professional development support. So a couple of things we put in place for parents were basically one-to-one types of trainings, offerings of one-pagers and things like that whenever they picked up the technology during the technology distribution. We've created a website. We actually had some donors support with some of the work around the parent virtual learning website. They committed hours of work to curate. If any of you have ever Googled how to do Microsoft Teams, you would find out how many accidental high school kid presentations you run into and not an actual resource. So that type of work takes time. So thank you to the beautiful group that helped to do that. And so we really have understood the importance of bringing the community in and connecting the family with this work. This slide is just a quick glimpse thinking about where are we going to go? How does the virtual day look as we bring teachers back into classrooms? And so in considering our next steps, we keep thinking about what does the day in the life look like of a typical teacher, of a typical student. And so we'll continue this work moving forward. Emily, you can go to the next slide. So what's next, right? So how do we leverage all of this into what's next? And so this slide captures the idea of next level SLPS. How can we reimagine education? So we have one-to-one technology which supports blended learning. What that gives us a really great opportunity to do is to have innovation in our classrooms, to think about the next level of learning, to think about how we can get past this idea of substituting what always was in the classroom to what can be. And so this idea of transformation in the classroom. Classrooms without walls, that's what technology gives us. And not just technology, because we all know tools are only as great as their user and their operator. So with understanding this idea that this continuous training with teachers, having a great curriculum in place, a standards-based curriculum that has innovative technology-based resources that can really take our teachers to the next level. And all of that ensures equity, right? Like technology is a great equalizer. We know that the digital divide was already pretty exposed, but the pandemic seriously exposed what was happening in so many ways, down to the need of, we need headphones for every kid with microphones, and we need, wait a minute, we got technology to everyone, but now we need hotspots because we have like data limitations. And so all of these things were coming at us, and we were really quick to try to think of solutions. And so we'll continue to ensure equity in that space. And finally, this just leaves us with some endless possibilities of what we can do next now that we are equipped with the background and the tools to do so. So I just want to end with this idea that a byproduct of the pandemic just so happens to be a catapult into the digital age, whether we were ready or not, here we are. And so education is going to be forever changed. That's a fact. There's no way anyone can deny that. And not only that, with what's happening in the world, we understand our students deserve better, and they don't need to come back to what always was. So we do need to reimagine education. And now we have better homeschool connections in place. with our parents and students. We have better ways to equip teachers with tools to track engagement and student achievement and support students. We are better, and we expect better for our students as we reimagine education as next level SLPS. And I think that's it for me. I talked really fast, so thank you.
So 2 instructional support centers provide in-person early childhood. Is that true, or do you think it's false? The district did not enroll new 3-year-olds this year. If you think that the answer is true, you're absolutely correct. As of Monday, the district continued to enroll children in early childhood programs. And with that, we'll move on to our next early childhood update from a couple of our teachers.
Great, we're gonna invite Shanta Smith and Allie Talley, both teachers at Oak Hill Elementary School. You all will start getting used to some of the lingo here, but Oak Hill Elementary School is a school that's open right now as an instructional support center. But these guys are also doing some remote teaching, and they will share with us how that all works, because I still get confused, but I know they've mastered it by now.
Hi guys, my name is Shante Smith. I'm a pre-K teacher at Oak Hill Elementary, but during virtual learning, I am co-teaching with Miss Allison Talley with pre-kindergarten and first grade.
Yes, so we have decided to co-teach because we are usually the pre-K teachers, and we needed a first grade teacher this year in the building. And so we decided to co-teach due to that we wanted our preschool students to know both of our faces whenever we return to brick and mortar.
Originally, we were told that we would be still teaching first grade, and pre-K we would kind of just meet up with and have like 2 meetings a week and kind of just catch up with them and keep them working and engaged with work at home and not so much time on the tablets. But when that changed, we were like, wait a minute, now our first grade babies know us, so we want to stay with them too. So the decision was made for the families and our students, what was best for them was to co-teach. So I teach a couple of days a week of both grades, and so does Miss Talley, and the kids love it. So to go over a little bit about how our schedule goes, like I said, we do co-teach. So I teach first grade Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and every afternoon. And Miss Talley teaches first grade on Tuesday and Thursday, and we flip on as far as pre-K. So as far as what does it look like for pre-kindergarten and first grade in the virtual setting, my goal is that we made it feel as normal as possible in an unnormal situation. So a lot of them, I had a lot of the first graders in pre-kindergarten, and then some of our pre-kindergarten students were return students. So we were able to kind of know the families already, but I'm big on building a family in my classroom and building a relationship with my family. So it's important that they know me, I know them. So we've called them a lot, we talk to them a lot, and we prepare for them. Also, if I don't know if you're aware of it, Oak Hill is 58% ESOL. So that is a barrier for us, but we don't take it as a challenge. We look forward to it. We definitely use the resources that St. Louis Public gives us as far as translators calling families. Sometimes I know we get on the translators' nerves about calling them more and calling them again till we get them through. We use the platform Class Dojo also, which translates in their 30 native languages, I think. And so we're able to type in English, and the parents are able to read it in their native language. And when they write back in their language, we can translate in English, which helps a lot. What does our day look like? So we all log in at 8:15. Both groups journal first thing in the morning. I think it's important to write, and that's something that we do when they enter our building. We greet them with a good morning and a smile. Because we are virtual, I like to make sure my babies have eaten. So in pre-kindergarten, we actually eat breakfast in our classroom. So that's something that is very similar. They get to eat on the iPads. And so we do that. And then we go into our ELA instructions. We take a toy break, and then we go into, first grade goes into the remainder of the ELA instruction and reading time and breaking up into small groups. And then pre-K goes to ancillary. So they go to art, music, PE, and library, and we partner with Ready Readers. So the Ready Reader I've had for 9 years now, she joins us on Thursdays in our team meeting, and she reads lots of great books. This group's favorite so far is Pete the Cat. Last year it was Mo Williams' book. So we're still getting some of those things that the kids enjoy, and I feel like we're making it as normal as possible. And we want our babies to be happy. We don't want them to feel nervous about learning. So we had some of the same things we had at the beginning of the school year in the regular brick and mortar. We had kids crying on the first day, so they bring a learning buddy with them. They get to sit with their learning buddy. Sometimes that's Superman and sometimes it's a unicorn. But we love to see our learning buddies, and they always tell us what they've learned. I will let Ms. Tally explain, because she is a 90s baby, I'm an 80s baby, and I see the difference with technology. So she definitely helps us add that technology piece with using the apps at home for the asynchronous learning.
Yeah, so we really try to incorporate that team usage, the synchronous instruction time, but then we also want to incorporate those apps that we have, the asynchronous time. So we use a couple different apps like Starfall, ABC Mouse, Epic, KhanKids. And so that actually helps us because we can differentiate the instruction for each student. So we're still meeting those needs for every child. So we can assign certain tasks or games for specific kids, which is really cool and neat because we can, meet them where they're at. And also, we also have paper to pencil work for the kids that we prepped and sent home because we all realize that virtual is difficult for some children. It's difficult for even the adults to get used to. So we wanted to provide those options of, if you're not ready to sit at the computer or you just might need a break, well, at least you can have the letter A paper, and we're talking about the letter A, so that, you can do the letter A, you can still get that fine motor skills, the coloring, the writing of the name. So we just are trying to incorporate all the cool things that they would have in the classroom.
So far we've had 100% participation with all of our families. Everyone logs in. Sometimes with those first graders, they like to take their time, but they like to share their journals, so they've been getting on time now. So we're trying to get those little norms down, but I think it's the same thing that we dealt with brick and mortar. We took a challenge and we were like, wait a minute, we're gonna smile and get through this. I'm a big person on solutions, and I feel like we've kind of mastered the solution to, such a new thing. Well, thank you for having us, guys.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I know that many would feel so lucky to have a child in your classroom. So I appreciate your thought and energy, even at the end of the day, that you bring. We're going to go next and hear a bit from one of our school social workers, but I felt like it was a nice moment also to take a bit of a break and just explain a few terms that you're hearing. I'm going to take the first one, ESOL. Shantae mentioned that I think it was 58% of the students at Oak Hill are ESOL students. That's English as a second language, so they are new American students. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Williams or Dr. Mitchell to give the formal definition of asynchronous and synchronous. Maybe Dr. Williams, since you're also going to be doing the quiz question.
Okay, so asynchronous is basically when students are doing their independent work. They are doing some independent learning, and then we have synchronous instruction where teachers are being live taught and interacting with their classroom teacher at the moment. And so those are two terms in which we quickly became familiar with. They're like our best friends, especially this quarter. So we have asynchronous, again, kids are officers themselves doing independent work, and synchronous, where students are with their classroom teacher participating in live instruction.
So Sean, this is a synchronous learning opportunity right now, right?
Correct. This is synchronous. So our next fact, the foundation, how is the foundation supporting the mental and physical health of students in SLPS? And so I'll read these to you quickly, and then I'll tell you what they are. So A is ensuring virtual therapy kits for students to participate in telehealth from home. B, funding a family stability fund that can be used towards education, food, tenant advocacy, utility support. C, providing access to COVID-19 tests. D, group therapy sessions for students dealing with grief and trauma. Or E, all of the above. And so what we want you guys to know is that 75 virtual therapy kits have been provided, and every single SLPS school will have access to the Family Stability Fund based on enrollment. So the correct answer, of course, is E.
And now we will hear from Connolly Christie, who splits her time, I know that's probably hard, between Farragut Elementary and Dewey International Studies. She's the school social work at both of those schools.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. As social workers this year, as everyone else, it's been a little bit different. We are basically doing a variety of things depending on the needs of the school, of the families there, of the students. It just kind of depends on what that school and those families need. The first thing we really started off doing was trying to get families engaged online, assisting with that. So making sure they had their technology. If they didn't, what can we do to get that to them, helping with that. Then if they did, are they actually getting online? And if they're not, what's the reason behind that? And how can we assist with that? We also have really been working with families on resources. As we know, now is a difficult time for so many families, including the families that go to St. Louis Public. And so we've been getting a lot of calls about assistance with rent, utilities, household items, just a lot of things that families are struggling with right now. So we have been starting to work on Christmas as well. We just finished our 100 neediest cases and applications for those. So really trying to make sure that our families are taken care of for Christmas, Thanksgiving, their help with that too. We also have been pushing into classrooms. So I am at an ISC, Dewey is an instructional support site, and then I also have Farragut that is going to a different school for their instructional support site. So one of the good things about being at the ISC is I am able to go into the classrooms there and do some social emotional kind of checking in. We've been doing some calm down exercises, some mindfulness exercises, just things to help them out in person. And then I've also been able to do that, and a lot of social workers have online as well. So we're checking into the classes. Some social workers are actually doing social emotional classes with the kids. Some are just going in maybe for the first 15 minutes, checking in, letting them know that we're there for them. We can actually do some individual check-ins as well. Just again, dealing with those issues as they come up. We've also been doing what we are calling sidewalk visits instead of home visits. So if we have to, we will go out to the family if they need food, or if there's another item that they need, or just to check in too with them to make sure everything's okay with them. If we haven't heard from them, we haven't had contact with them, just going to them and meeting them and seeing the children as well from the sidewalk, socially distanced, being very careful about that. We have also at Dewey, we've started our trauma informed program again with the school there. They are a TIP school. So we went back to, had our professional development last Friday and did a review of some of those sessions, and we will start that again on continuing to working on becoming trauma informed as much as we can. And it's a whole different ballgame now too. We just have a lot of other things going on as well. We've also been doing at Farragut, we've been doing some events because we are a smaller school. We were able to have an outside open house with socially distanced. People were required to wear masks. We had a lot of our community partners there that were available for families. They were able it's going to be during parent-teacher conferences. And again, having those resources there so the family can just get those as they need. They can check in with teachers, all those kind of things too. So things we're working on incentives to help get kids engaged online, just checking in with families and making sure they're doing okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Christie. Not a dull moment for you, and we appreciate that you're there for students and families. We've got one last quiz question from Dr. Williams, and then we'll hear from our College and Career Readiness Department, and then Dr. Adams.
Okay, so which of the following will not be provided in college and career readiness work this year? Is it A, free ACT preparation in all high schools, B, college specialists at 6 school sites, C, college visits, D, tailored support for new freshmen, E, dual enrollment opportunities, or F, all of the above? And so here's what we want you guys to know. The answer is definitely F, all of the above. We're continuing to do all of these things, including virtual visits and virtual college counseling. In fact, there are even new virtual memberships happening, or mentorships happening for students participating in dual enrollment via the Early College Academy. So we're going to continue to do all of the above.
Thank you, and we're going to welcome Khadija Tijan. She is in the Office of College and Career Readiness. She oversees and works closely with many of our college advisors in our high schools. She's going to share a little bit about how our high school students are feeling, things they're thinking about, and what they're doing to prepare for their next post-secondary step.
Awesome. Thanks, Jane. So as Jane has said, my name is Khadija Tijan. And as you guys have heard, COVID has had a deep impact on our students and their families, but our students are resilient. And our admission specialists and their teams are phenomenal, and they've been working extremely hard these last 30 days, not only to equip our students with the tools they need to kind of navigate this college planning landscape, but also prepare for life after high school. So a few of the things that we've been doing this year, we put in place a senior entrance survey, and that was really to kind of help inform the work that we're doing and make sure that our conversations are really tailored to meet our students' needs. And in addition to kind of asking them, well, what are you planning to do after high school? We kind of wanted to know how did COVID impact you and your families? And we kind of found that a lot of our students actually lost a lot of their part-time jobs, or their family members lost their part-time jobs. And so that really kind of changed maybe some of the ideas, the post-secondary plans that our students kind of had originally for life after high school. And so our advisors and admission specialists have been conducting one-on-one meetings with students during the asynchronous times via Microsoft Teams and Zoom. They've been hosting virtual college rep visits and college tours. They've levied their creativeness to really utilize social media platforms to engage students and parents and members of the community to kind of advertise those opportunities, as well as to kind of at least share tips of college planning when they can't get a one-on-one meeting. They've been having a lot of virtual parent meetings, and from what a lot of the admission specialists have been saying, a lot of parents have been engaged that way, and they've kind of seen more parent participation via this virtual space than maybe in previous years. Tomorrow, the FAFSA opens up, and so they are currently right now trying to gear up for one-on-one meetings to help students and their families complete that FAFSA before this February 1st deadline. And they've kind of also just been doing general check-in sessions at least once a week, just to see kind of how students are doing. They've also collaborated with a lot of teachers as well to sort of build those relationships with students virtually, and also make sure that students are on track during this college planning process. Some of the big challenges that our students are facing as they kind of navigate post-secondary planning has really kind of been students kind of feeling like they don't have enough time, or they don't kind of feel they kind of have the self-efficacy that they can do this on their own. They really miss that in-person conversations that they were able to have with college advisors before. And it was always easier to go through this process with a friend. And so doing college planning work virtually, it kind of feels like they're in a silo. And so it hasn't been maybe as fun for students as it usually is whenever they're in person. Also, a lot, of challenges that our students have kind of been facing has really been a lot of uncertainty in the admissions process. Colleges are still sort of saying, oh, it's test optional, but what does that really mean? And, what does that mean for scholarships and college affordability? And also, what does the future look like? We are all still trying to figure out what is fall 2021 going to look like. We're trying to figure out what, spring 2021 is going to look like. So a lot of our students are still trying to navigate making post-secondary decisions with, no clue or inkling as to what's going to happen in the future. Another challenge really that our students are kind of trying to navigate is college tours and the lack thereof. And while we're able to do virtual tours and that has been successful, it's not the same as actually being on campus and getting that feeling on if you fit there or not, or if you should consider other options. But our advisors and our admission specialists and our counseling teams are doing a phenomenal job by overcoming those challenges and really seeking to meet students' needs in creative ways.
Thanks so much, Khadijah. And thanks to any college specialists that are on the line as well. We appreciate the work. I'd be curious, we're gonna get a little bit of an update about what's next in terms of school for SLPS from Dr. Adams, but also I'm encouraging anybody, if they've got questions, to share them in chat. And I know, listening to this range of staff that are working directly with our students in lots of different school settings, a lot of words are coming up to me: adaptivity, flexibility, grit, different things. So if you also wanted to share some of those words in chat, that would be great as well. But do you, Dr. Adams, I know that there are potentially some plans to move back towards getting some more kids in our schools. Do you want to give us whatever you can of an update on that? I know that it hasn't been formally decided, so you can share what you can share.
So first, I want to say thank you to everyone. Obviously, the persons who have presented today really, hit me in the heart, because it makes me really think about how committed educators have been, parents have been, teachers have been, administrators. The foundation and our partners who are on this screen today have been to really support our kids and our families regardless of what's going on. So just want to say thank you to everyone who's pushed in to do that. Many that, who are not even present, educators who just really care greatly about our kids and really want to make a difference. To that point, we started having some conversation as we received information from the city and the health department that they thought it might be a good idea to go back to school. And so we surveyed our faculty last week, some 900 to 1,000 comments, and we surveyed families or parents. It ended on yesterday to get some idea of what they thought about coming back to school. So we had started the process of calling families kindergarten through grade 6 with the idea that pre-K through grade 2nd are looking to go back to school on the 19th of October. We always said we would come back to our families and ask them what they thought, and that's what we're doing. The plan right now, tentatively, obviously nothing is in stone. If I've learned nothing else in this whole process, we control nothing, the virus controls everything, and we are responding to the data that we get. But the data seems to be positive data, at least as it relates to St. Louis City, in terms of transmissions and positivity rate and new cases, all numbers that are down compared to when we made this decision on August 11th. And so as a result of that, we're surveying families, matter of fact, that was supposed to end today, to determine if families wanted to come back, because regardless of what we do, we want to give family choices. And then we will survey staff tomorrow. I will get some recommendations on Friday of what we're looking to do, but there's a likelihood, a possibility, a probability that many of our elementary schools will be reopened on October the 19th, with the idea that the instructional support centers will go away, but schools will reopen pre-K through grade 2nd, and then adding grades 3 through 6 after that. Middle and high schools, as I talk to principals and leaders last week, it is likely that we are not talking about anything with high schools anytime really soon. Although the information we are getting from the health professionals, the information is that if we take all of the precautions, which we plan to do, that there is a strong probability that our middle school and our high school kids can come back as early as possible, whatever that might need. So we are poised to make sure our buildings are prepared and ready with enough custodial staff to keep everything clean as we did in the ISCs, ventilation and all of those kinds of things. So the bottom line is, everybody, we are still in the process of planning and being flexible by looking at the data, but we are looking at an October 19th possible reentry for many of our students, teachers, and parents, obviously, as they come back to what has been traditional education, with the idea that those families will still have options who don't want to come back because of a number of different reasons.
Thanks, Dr. Adams. And you and I have talked about this just in terms of how this moment in time gives the district many challenges, but also the opportunity for what Ms. Mitchell referred to as reimagination and next level SLPS. And when you think about that, where do you see new opportunities from all of this?
Honestly, we started this conversation when we reopened school virtually on the 31st. The idea of the ISCs is one idea of how do we provide support to families at the same time, provide them with the instruction that they need. The whole notion of virtual, I met with my high school people last week as we are reimagining what high school looks like for kids. I heard the counselor kind of talk about the notion of kids not having face-to-face. I think there's a high probability that some of that will continue, but how do we make sure that we're supporting the neediest kids? As we look at special needs kids and our early ECE, early childhood classes. And so I think what we see will be happening differently is how we deliver instruction to families and how we provide support to them. What you may not have heard that I heard clearly is that in many cases, we're having better interaction with families by doing this virtually because we can simply get them on a Zoom call like you and I are doing right now, not jump in the car, not drive across town, not have to deal with traffic. And so the conversation piece is important, but obviously the human touch is missing. So how do we make sure that we can provide that same opportunity by doing the human touch, but at the same time give families the ability to email and text us and have Zoom conferences like we're having right now. So I can imagine that what we will see for the beginning of school year next year, and obviously what we see in January will be different school by school as we look at the flexibilities that we need to provide to individual schools, to individual families, but also to individual classrooms as we try to provide support that families really need. I think it's going to be much more tailored support than what we provided before, Ms. Donahue, quite frankly, that we're looking to be very specific about how we provide support. I know Karen Kalish is on with the homework program that they're doing. I know Susan Katzman is on around what they're doing with CSMB, and it's all kind of individualized based upon what needs to happen in a particular school. So some lessons learned as we look to be flexible to support families.
Excellent, thank you. And we'll take a couple questions, and I'm very grateful for having some of our district leaders on this call as well. I'm going to ask a question, and I can see Dr. Adams, but I know a couple of them, like this next one. If Dr. Knight, if our Chief of Academics, if you're on as well, this might be something you could answer as well. But one of the questions is, what kind of data or measurements are we being held accountable for, or will we be using to see how kids progressed during this time period?
So good afternoon. I'm here. So
our Chief Academic Officer, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. So the intent is that we are taking the standards-based approach and looking at the high priority standards through our common formative assessments that we are creating, intermittent assessments, also looking at STAR, checking the readability levels of our children in elementary and middle, looking at where they are in terms of reading intervention and support, but really taking the approach through the standards-based approach and looking at those high priority standards and those sub-skills within the standards as it relates to the summative assessment, the spring assessment that we take every year.
Excellent. And can you tell us what % of our students have enrolled or are participating in virtual learning?
That's a really good question. I may have to pivot that one to Dr. Adams because I know that he has been looking at those numbers much more frequently. I know I jump in and I'm in and out of the classes on a regular basis, but I know he gets those numbers.
So right now, based on the numbers I looked at the end of the day today, we have enrolled approximately 20,300 and let's say 52 students. What we're seeing is that about 17 to 18,000 students are participating virtually every single day. Obviously, it's not the same kids. Some kids are getting bumped off. Some kids are doing instructional packets, as I indicated before. Those kids who did not return their technology, we did not provide them a second piece of technology. So about 1,000 of our kids are learning with instructional packets. So engaged fully every day. Our enrollment, our daily attendance is really about a 92%. So if we were coming back to school every single day, roughly about 1,600 to 2,000 kids are not coming every single day. Now that is not a number that we are proud of, obviously, but that number is about consistent with what happens in person with instruction as well. So it's around that same number.
Excellent, thank you. And we've got time for one more question, and that is, this is a daunting task that's coming up. So how are classroom teachers going to handle half their kids in the classroom and then the other half online? And if there are any teachers that are already handling that, they're welcome to unmute and answer that $64 million question, or I'll pass it on to Dr. Adams.
I will gladly take a teacher.
Well, hi guys. So we have about, I'll speak about our first graders really. We only have one pre-K student who is at Sticks that logs on every day from Sticks, which is really great. But we have about 7 to 8 students who are enrolled in the ISC site at Oak Hill, and they log on daily. Right now, instruction is completely from us with the iPad. So they sit at their iPad, they are socially distant. They do have a wonderful teacher, Ms. Jennifer, in there who makes sure they're able to get on. So basically, in my eyes, she acts as the parent to make sure to guide them through maybe, going from one app to another or things like that. But we really work with them on learning those skills. We take time each morning to review the things that we are going to be doing, or what we would call our norms in our Zoom meetings. And they are pretty independent now. I don't know what that's going to look like, being back brick and mortar. I know we're talking about maybe having us on camera for our virtual students, but we want to make it as normal as possible for our kids. I'm a big person on just making our children comfortable, and I feel like they're doing great. They love being on the iPad. They feel like they're in control of the classroom. Some of them have learned how to control the classroom, so we had to learn some things on Teams. We had a friend hang up on everybody. So we figured it out, but I think it can be done. Like I said, I'm not big on just sticking with the problem and complaining. I just feel like it's always a solution. So as we take on the task, I think we'll figure out how this is going to look. But so far, our kids are just as engaged as our ones at home that are at the ISC sites.
Thanks so much, Ms. Smith. And on that note, I'm going to close it out. I hope that we have achieved what we wanted to do. I think we have. You've been able to meet some of our really committed, creative, resourceful staff. I hope you know that the SLPS students are in good care with these amazing individuals. This is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There's lots of complexity, and any other questions you guys have in the Zoom chat, we'll make sure to answer. Also want to make sure you can learn more about what we're doing. We also did a few videos just so that we'd give you kind of the visual of what it looks like at some of the instructional support centers. We also talked to some social workers. I'll end one of the videos we shared yesterday. It was a high school junior who is juggling work at the Early College Academy. her hardest thing is that she's an extrovert, so she really misses bouncing ideas off of people. But she said the differences have been challenging, but nothing is impossible. I heard that in Ms. Smith's answer too. So I want to thank you all for taking time. I want to thank our staff, Emily Zevely, our development director, and Kaylee Lawrence, our